Hello and welcome to another anime lore and theory video. I'm Shagok, your host, and today we are going to take a closer look at how a hypothetical fight between Platinum Dragonlord in his armor, or rather as his armor, and the dragon god Orsted as himself would actually go down. But before we're going to take a closer look at any of this, let me quickly thank my Patreons for supporting this channel, as well as a thanks to all users of the YouTube thanks function for making one-time donations. And with that said, let's get to the topic at hand. Dragon god Orsted vs Platinum Dragonlord's armor. And this was a fight that my Patreon supporters have actually requested. And of course this raises one main question. Who is Orsted and who's Platinum? Well, Platinum Dragonlord is the strongest remaining dragon in the fantasy world of Overlord and has managed to defeat Pandor's actor in the form of Einsulgon, though it should be said that Pandor intentionally lost and was holding back the entire time. But he also had defeated other enemies and supposedly also other players, as in basically the strongest beings in the world of Yggdrasil, in this form of his remotely controlled armor. So we know the extent of his power, at least that of his armor, because we have seen him fight a fair bit as it. On the other side, spoiler warning for season number 3, Dragon God Orsted is the single strongest being in his entire world, stronger than Demon God Laplace, stronger than Dragon Demon God Laplace, stronger than Hidogami, and even stronger than Norn. However, Orsted suffers from a series of limitations. For one, he is hated and feared by all living beings in his world, something that would mean nothing in the world of Overlord, of course. Secondly, he must devote 99% of his mana regeneration to hide himself from the world, so that his thoughts cannot be read by Hidogami. And because of this, Orsted would want to use as little mana as possible in any given fight. And that makes his battle against Platinum's armor, who would likely view Orsted as an intruder in his world, interesting for reasons other than would Orsted win. The real question would be how much of his precious mana reserves would Orsted need to spend to secure victory. Well, first and foremost, Orsted would probably notice the attack from Platinum's armor while orienting himself in the world of Overlord. He would also realize that the animals are neither fleeing nor are they frightened of him. And Platinum's attack would likely come in the form of a teleportation behind Orsted. But Orsted would have his reflexes ready to evade it, and he would dodge the first attack with like 80 or 90% chance. Much like Einsulgon did, although he needed a spell in order to delay the attack of Platinum. And then Orsted might ask who Platinum is, and he would likely get the same answer as Eins, or rather Pandora. Riku Aganea. While Orsted is speaking, Platinum's armor would use the world-separating barrier to cut off Orsted's escape route. And without a world item, Orsted would likely be trapped. However, as a member of the dragon race in a human form, he might still be able to just walk through the barrier, or just break it with magic because he's Orsted. But this, of course, would cost him mana. Orsted then, of course, would ask Platinum if he knew who Man-God is. And then Platinum might think of the 6 great gods of slain, or perhaps of players who fought alongside Platinum 200 years ago as one of the 13 heroes, against the evil gods and their demon king. In any case, Orsted would notice if Platinum hesitates or just grew thoughtful, or if Platinum ignored the question entirely and simply regarded him as an invader. Either way, that would be enough for Orsted to decide to fight. And unlike in his fight with Eins, Platinum's armor would likely not use holy magic, but instead give himself a physical buff, if anything at all. Because again, he would notice that Orsted is not an undead. Next would come the close combat. Much to Platinum's irritation, Orsted would be able to block the hammer with his bare hands and counterattack at lightning speed, piercing the armor. And again, this is an armor that already had a hole from shelter in it. And Orsted would also aim straight for that hole, straight where he would suspect Platinum's heart to be, only to discover that Riku Aganea's body is, just like Ares's head, completely hollow inside. He would realize that he's dealing with a kind of puppet, and might suspect the armor has a will of its own, based on events and experiences I won't spoil here. In other words, Orsted would view the armor itself as the problem and wouldn't initially realize there was someone controlling it from afar. Stoic and resignated, he would then try to dismantle the armor piece by piece, putting Platinum in serious trouble. Much like in his fight against Sheltier, Platinum might already start considering to retreat, after the first few blows show a difference in power. But the fact that Orsted seems somewhat draconic would probably keep him from fleeing. After all, he is, at least in his own estimate, the strongest dragon, and would want to keep fighting to see who Orsted really is. Or perhaps with whom of the other dragons he is allied. So Platinum would change tactics, put some distance between them, and buff himself similar to how Einzelgon did before the fight of Sheltier. After, of course, teleporting away. And since Orsted cannot fly because he lacks his wings in his human form, Platinum would have the advantage here. But Orsted would not want his opponent to keep stacking buffs. He knows all too well how difficult it becomes to defeat a magic user once they are fully powered up. Even ones who would normally fall with a single strike from him. So reluctantly Orsted would use magic, and Platinum would stare into a white light. And just as in the fight against Pandora, he would charge straight through it without flinching, flying towards Orsted, now faster and stronger. However, Orsted's skills and experiences, which surpasses Platinum's battle experience by millennia, would still gradually wear him down. First the hammer would shatter, then the lance would break, the arms and legs would dent, and finally the moment would come when Platinum would try to escape via teleportation. Disturb magic. Platinum, certain he could flee, would suddenly notice the connection to his armor breaking down, only to find himself once again seeing through the eyes of the armor, as Orsted continued to pound it relentlessly. World heal. Disturb magic. Again, Orsted interrupted the healing magic. Another blackout, another crushing blow tearing a new hole in the armor. But Platinum this time had anticipated the disruption. The katana, pretending to fall down, would now swing with all of its might behind Orsted's hand, cutting clean through his mana armor, slicing tendons, muscles, blood vessels, and bone, severing his right hand, which would fly through the air. Without any hesitation and a frightening routine, Orsted then would extend his arm stump, touch the airborne hand, smoke would rise, the fingers would flex, and the hand would be reattached. Orsted's silent healing magic nullified even this achievement. A stunned Platinum would watch from his hiding place as the hand that just had been flying through the air delivered a final crushing blow to his already battered helmet, denting the head. And then the connection would break again. The sound of shattering signaled the breaking of the axe, and the katana would no longer move. Even maintaining contact with the katana becomes difficult. Then Platinum would feel it only for a brief moment again, before abandoning any animation of the weapon entirely. He would know what had happened. His opponent had used disturbed magic to cut off the flow of the wild magic to the weapon. Again and again, Orsted's sharpened senses would be able to detect the moments when contact with the katana was re-established from afar. And worse, now Orsted would also know exactly where to find his attacker after reading the flow of magic and mana. So the fight would be far from over, and Orsted would have used less than 5% of his enormous mana reserves. So that's the scenario. And now it's your turn. What do you think about the fight? Do you agree with me, or do you think Platinum's armor would have had a better chance against Orsted? Okay, and while you type your answers, I say thank you very much for watching, thanks to all of my Patreons for supporting this channel, and as usual, I say my special thanks to Arder Daddy Arder, ASK, Bad Girl Yee, Bad Burrito 316, Beezer, Ben C, Brandon S, Brandon D, Chrissy, Crowley 0221, Sia, Crystal Prime, Dead Slime, Death is Mercy, Deathless Dragonlord, Demon Xenomorph 1987, Devin Downen, Ding Dong, Din Pep, Dragonlord Placidus Saxophone, Duckwagon, Dunkler Krieger, Dystopia II, Enigmatic Unicorn, Feralchivan, Guy with That Head, Hector Marino, Hoss, Huster, Jacob G, Jana B, Jason, J. Morris, Chromius, Kyle R, Lee K. Long, Legendarius, Le Louche Britannia Viffy Mustache, Lexus Fox, Lord Nishikian Rai, Lord Touch Me, Loverazor, Merowek, Mr. Shoes, Mr. Tweaker, Michael R, Michael Y, Nope, Oh Hell No, Normal Toad, O'Kill, Overlord General Gasper, Paddy Pentum, Personage, Ruru, Primus 11, Rhinomere, Q&A Caracos P, Shergox's Daddy, Shadow Lightning Wolf, Shrine Keeper, Sir Axolotl, Super Tier Magic Batista Bomb, Supreme Cheese, Staris, Ted, Texas Deer, The Orc Warboss, Rocket Smasher, T.E. Wang, Vash Hawkeye, Vegito 27,